And I thought that maybe it was just how the people were dressed for work, you know, like their working uniforms. But no, it was because they were a cult. Creepy place, creepy name, creepy people. Here's the story of how we ended up in a cult using HelpX. Okay, HelpX, first thing, if you don't know what it is, it's a website. It basically allows people who are looking for help with their farm, with their house, with their children, to find somebody who's going to do this work for them. Instead of giving them money, they basically host them, give them food, give them a place to stay. So that's the idea of HelpX. It's a great way to travel if you're on a budget or if you just want to meet people while traveling. It was back in 2017. I was on a working holiday visa in Australia. I was working in Melbourne and I had this friend who was on a working holiday visa as well, but she was in New Zealand and she had been traveling around the whole year only using HelpX and other kinds of woofing applications, so basically the same thing. So I was definitely willing to try. And we got into our head that for my last adventure in Australia, because I was heading to the Philippines after that, we would just try out HelpX, see how it went. So we met in Sydney and we took a train to Katoomba, a little city by the Blue Mountains. It's a famous spot in Australia where you can see beautiful landscapes. There are mountains with forests and everything. It's a great place to go. If you haven't been, definitely go there. But anyways, that's not the point. She had just told me that we were gonna be working in a restaurant, cafe type of thing, and that we would be hosted over there, and that would be a great way for us to travel and discover the Blue Mountain region, as well as staying there for free. So it was a great deal when you think about it. They had this little cafe that they had called the Yellow Deli. It was just so sweet. There was a chimney with a fire. It was so cozy, so nice. You felt so good over there. And I learned after that they actually have those in a lot of different countries. And it's actually a way for them to recruit people. When we arrived over there, first thing that struck me was how the people were dressed. They were not wearing regular clothing. That's okay, I mean, you can wear whatever you want, but they were all wearing the same type of thing. So already I'm like, okay, what kind of a deal is this? And I thought that maybe it was just how the people were dressed for work, you know, like their working uniform sort of thing, like for the mood of the cafe or whatever, for the ambience. But no, it was because they were a cult. They didn't have like really weird clothes. It's just that it was clothes from an ancient time. The women had some kind of middle-aged dress. It was like a long-sleeved type of dress or shirt and like a long skirt as well down to their feet with like old boots, one long, super long braid. So like it felt a little old, but also really weird. And the men were wearing sort of lumberjacks shirts and they all had a huge beard. It really looked like medieval times? Medieval. Well, you know what I mean. It doesn't sound so weird or ridiculous when I'm saying it, but it's really awkward when you walk into a place and everybody's just wearing things from old times and it's not for a show or because some movie is being filmed, you know? So we were bound to stay with them for 5 days. That's what we had arranged on HelpX. When we arrived, it was the end of a day, so we weren't gonna start working then. So they showed us around, they showed us the task that we had to do. Basically, we were gonna wash dishes and clean tables and waiter for them and help them out. When you're using HelpX, usually the people who welcome you, they have you work 2 to 3 hours per day in exchange for board and food. But these guys had us working 5 to 6 hours instead. So it was twice as much time that we had to work. But their food was so great, so I didn't complain. They were so sweet. That's the whole problem, because you want to stay there forever when actually it's not so good for you to stay there. Everything was going super well. They even gave us these little welcome cards. So the weird things started to happen in the morning. It was 6 o'clock when we started hearing singing. There was this girl who was just walking in the corridor, and in front of her room, she was singing in order to wake us up, like a weird, creepy song. So we get dressed, we go downstairs, and we meet the people, and we go to the house with them. Creepy name, creepy place, creepy name, creepy people. Why do you do this? I don't know. First thing, arriving at the house, we understand that their whole community is living in the same house. So, I mean, I'm not against people who are flat sharing, sort of, but it's a funny idea as well, because we're not so much used to that. Let me put things in context for you. It's 6 in the morning. We go to a place called The House. We arrive and we see people dancing in a circle, playing violin. It's 6 in the morning. They're wearing like ancient clothing and really weird, like a weird attire. The women were wearing veils or other kinds of headbands, like made out of cotton. From then we knew that we had to leave. That straight away, my friend looked at me and she's like, what the hell is this place? When they stopped singing and dancing, they got together in a circle and they started praying, which made us feel a little bit uncomfortable because neither my friend or I are religious. Although we are respectful of people who have different kinds of beliefs, that's not a problem, but it's a little bit uncomfortable to be put in this situation when you haven't chosen to. It felt super weird that they would not be so considerate of how we could feel in such an ambience because it's just weird. It's weird! And at some point they all got together around the table and started eating, but by then we had already decided with my friend that we were gonna leave sooner than we should have because this place was a little too weird for us to stay in. One thing that was a little awkward that happened was when I went to take a shower and I got out of the bathroom wearing only a towel to walk to my room because it was literally 3 meters away, so I thought, okay, that's not a big deal. I saw one of the men of the house, but like he didn't tell me anything or looked at me or much, you know. Later on that day, there was one of the women who was part of the community who came to me to tell me that I had to cover up and I couldn't walk around naked. Like, I mean, it's not like I was actually naked and walking around like showing my boobs to people or wearing, I don't know, bathers or I don't know, but showing off. It was not the case. So I thought it was maybe a little exaggerated, but that's their beliefs and I respect that. But they even asked us to not wear tank tops to work because our skin was showing off, basically. I thought that this was going a little too far because I'm in 2017, hey. They had these meetings every morning and every night. They were basically eating together in the morning and at night, and seeing how weird it had been, my friend and I decided that we were not gonna go. And what I disliked as well with their behavior is that they sort of insisted for us to go to these meetings. Of course, because we were staying over there, we tried to get to know the people as well. There were other people who were here because they were using HelpX as well. So we talked to them about how they felt about this whole community kind of thing. There was one girl who initially had come to stay for like 3 days and who had been there for 2 whole months and was not planning on leaving anymore. That's when I understood that they used this HelpX platform to try and get people to join their cult. We got around to talking to them and getting to know them a little bit more and everything about their community. So they explained that they were all working in this restaurant, even kids, they were giving a hand as well. So to be able to provide for the community, they had this restaurant and they also had a farm where they grew different things. They told us that they were called the 12 tribes and that they had communities all over the world, even here in France, near Toulouse, not so far from where I live. So that's cool. Now I don't blame people for trying to find alternative ways to live. That's great if you don't want to be part of the society as it is, like create your own little one. They didn't pay the people who worked in their restaurant because they were part of their community. That for me is a big problem because they would not have any money or any resources to be able to leave. And that's actually the problem with cults, because they isolate you and they manipulate you into staying with them, into giving them everything that you own. So I've been making fun about it, joking around, but it actually is a really big deal. There are a lot of people who tried to escape of this cult and they didn't succeed. Others succeeded and they actually wrote articles online. They created association to welcome people who try to escape from cults, things like this. There are just so many articles about it. I'll try to put everything in the description so that you can look for yourselves. A lot of testimony where people say that they were beaten as a child 20 to 30 times per day. A lot of stories about how children had to be taken away from the cult by the government to be placed in other foster homes because the cult was violating child labor laws. And all of these articles describe the struggle and the abuse that these people who managed to escape what they lived. 12 Tribes cult is dangerous. 12 Tribes, the church preached child abuse and slavery. It is a communal religious movement comprised about 2,000 to 3,000 members living in roughly 50 communities scattered throughout 9 countries. Members of the cult adopt a belief system that is a combination of Christian fundamentalism and Messianic Judaism. The physical abuse is one thing. That's the easy story. It's the psychological abuse that's the killer. The kids feel they're inherently bad because they're spanked all the time. They grow up fearing the outside world because they're told it's evil, and if they do end up liking it, they think they're evil too. I actually learned everything after we left because I had seen documentaries about how cults work and things like that. So I sort of knew that things like this could happen. But then I've done my research and this is what I found. They have a disbelief in modern medicine. This led to numerous tragedies. One woman was denied the right to go to a hospital and was told to pray instead. If God wants her to live, He'll save her. She died a few hours later. One woman was giving birth. She was told to pray for God to help her. She began to hemorrhage and eventually lost consciousness. She was then driven to a hospital and dumped on the sidewalk outside the emergency room. When she awoke, she was told her child had been stillborn. It's like they just beat children into submission at an early age so they don't question things when they get older. Honestly, if you ever go through Katoomba or drive around the Blue Mountains, make sure that you actually go and try their food because it's actually super delicious. That we can't take away from them. But if it's for HelpX, for example, make sure that you don't stay there too long. Be careful that they don't try to manipulate you in different ways. If you ever see somebody in need of assistance, please call the police or do something about it. Now, everything went okay for us, but it might not be the case for everyone who ever goes there. So be careful if you ever go to this place or if you know somebody who is going to. That being said, I hope that you'll have the best trip if you ever go to Australia and that you'll have the best experience using HelpX if you ever do. If you liked the video, if you thought it was useful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, write your story in the comments. I would love to hear about it. And yeah, till next time, kisses and hugs.